There are two goals that every writer needs to understand and think about before you start writing. This is episode 4 of 4 Legal English podcast. On the docket today, the two goals of writing. Welcome to the 4 Legal English podcast. This is the show for lawyers, law students, and other professionals from all over the world who want to improve both their legal English and legal knowledge. On the docket today, the two goals of writing. So this is our first episode about legal writing, and this is probably true for any writing actually, not just legal writing. But I've taught academic writing, I've taught legal writing to a lot of students, and I've seen a lot of writing and a lot of legal writing. There are two goals that every writer needs to understand and think about and answer before you start writing. If you do this, then your writing will be concise, it will be logical, and it will probably be effective. But if you don't think about these two goals, you don't come up with answers, then your writing is probably going to be ineffective. So let's get into it. The two questions of writing. The first question is, why are you writing? And what I mean by that is, what is your goal or objective in writing this? What are you trying to achieve? The second question, why are they reading? In other words, what is the reader's goal or objective? What is the reader trying to achieve? Now, usually these are distinct. What you're trying to get out of this writing and what the reader is trying to get out of reading your writing are usually not the same thing. And as a writer, you want to try to sync these two goals as much as possible. What you're trying to achieve out of writing and what they're trying to achieve out of reading. If you can match those, if you can sync those as much as possible, depending on the circumstances, then the more effective your writing is going to be. This may be kind of simple, but let me go through a couple of examples. Let's look at a job application letter. Why are you writing? You're applying for a new job. Why are you writing an application letter? Well, your goal or objective is to get a job offer or to get a job. Or really, it's probably not even that. It's probably to get an interview. Usually they're not going to hire somebody just off of the application letter and the CV. So your goal is to get the interview, to go to that next stage. Maybe there's round 1, they're going to collect CVs and letters, and then round 2, they're going to have interviews. You want to get to that round 2. What about the person reading it? Why are they reading your application letter? What is their goal or objective? Well, to answer that, you have to think, well, who's going to read this? Now, it could be an HR director or HR person, or it could be the hiring partner, whoever's in charge of making the hiring decision is going to read it, or maybe one of their assistants is going to read it. Maybe they give it to one of their staff. Hey, look at these applications and pick X, we'll interview those X. What is the goal of the reader? But they want to pick are the best from this stack of applications. More than that, they're looking to find someone that fit what they're looking for. Maybe they're looking for someone with at least 5 years experience. So if that's important to them, then they might just go through 5 years, yes, they go into this pile. 5 years, no, they go into that pile. Or maybe they're looking for someone who's already a member of the bar. Or they're looking for someone who has experience in this field of law, or whatever it is. There may be 3, 4, 5 things that they're looking for. And maybe 1 or 2 of those are either yes or no. If you have it, then you're going to go into the yes pile. If you don't have it, you're going to go into the no pile. But even if you get into the yes pile, they might be looking at 2 or 3 other things. And then, we have 10 in the yes pile. But we don't want to interview 10 people. So let's pick the best 5 or let's pick the best 3, whatever number they're coming up with. So they're going to look at things, who has more experience, who has more relevant experience, or whatever they're looking for. Maybe they're looking for someone that has language skills in this language. Then they're going to be looking at those things. If they have a description of the job vacancy, they're looking for someone with X years of experience, or experience in this field of law, or experience in this language, then they're maybe looking at your application letter and see, do these match up? If they can't tell, well, a lot of times that means you're going to go into the no pile. But if it's very clear, oh, we're looking for someone with 5 years experience, and you make it very clear, I have 5 years of experience, then they're probably going to go into the yes pile, because they're looking for something specific. And if you know what that is, you want to give that to them. You want to say, hey, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for X, Y, and Z, and I've got X, Y, and Z. So you're making their job easier. They don't have to hunt and peck. They don't have to add up dates. Oh, he was working here. Was he working here? Well, what kind of experience was that? But if they're looking for that specific experience, you want to explain that in your application letter. You're looking for this. I've got this. And by doing that, you're kind of answering these two questions. You're syncing these two questions. Why are you writing? You want to get that interview. Why are they reading? They want to look for the qualified person to give the interview to. Let's look at a different example. Let's say you're a practicing lawyer. You're writing a letter to opposing counsel, or even the other party. Maybe they don't have representation yet. What is your goal in writing that letter? Maybe it's to avoid litigation. Let's come to an early settlement. What is their goal in reading the letter? Well, maybe they want to avoid litigation too, but they don't want to come to an early settlement. They don't want to give your client anything. They don't want to agree to anything. How do you sync those? Well, you could point out how strong your case is. Point out this is what your client did, or this is what you did. My client did this, and make an argument. Your case is pretty weak. My case is pretty strong. We could go to court and we could litigate this, but that would cost time and money. Or we could come to an easy resolution. If going to court, it would cost us much more. What if you give us part of that up front? We make a deal now, and then we avoid court. So if we can sync those objectives, then that may be helpful for your client. Or let's look at a legal brief to the court. You're writing to convince the court or to prove that your client should win. The court or the judge is reading it because he or she needs to decide which party is right, which side has the better argument. There are some things that may be very important to you or to your client, but maybe aren't that important to the judge. A lot of times when you give oral arguments, you can kind of figure out, oh, they don't care about this argument. They don't care about this, but they do care about that. This is very important to them. So by figuring out what's important to them and helping, give them what they need to look at the statute, or the statute is very important to them. So you're breaking down the statute for them and explaining why under the statute, under the analysis, your client should win. So you're basically trying to give them what they need for your client to win. If you recognize what they need, what they're looking for, then if you write to it, it's going to be much more effective. If you're writing only to kind of hear yourself talk, there are a lot of lawyers I've heard in court and read their briefs that just kind of want to hear themselves talk. Judges usually don't like that, and it's just not that effective. You want to figure out, what do they want to read? Why are they reading? And then how can I match my goal with their goal? How can I convince them that they are similar, if not the same? So you want to try to do that as much as possible, or at least take it into account. You want to think about what your goals are when you're writing and what the reader's goals are when they read it. And recognize that they're not always the same. But if you can sync them, then it's probably going to be much more effective, whatever the writing is. So I hope you got something out of this, the 2 questions for writing. Please subscribe, give us 5 stars and a great review. Go to our website, forlegalenglish.com. That's 4, the number 4, legalenglish.com. You can check out our blog articles and available courses there, and even the podcast show notes. You can also comment on the podcast show notes, and that's a great way to practice and improve your legal English skills. For Legal English Podcast is adjourned. Don't miss the next docket call.